it, upon seeing The Last Jedi 2 or 3 more times, the Yoda moment now seems forced. It seems out of place. It seems like something Rian Johnson did simply to get a crowd pop. In the wrestling business, they call it a pop. Or in the music business, Journey's playing some concert and they yell out, "We really love, Detroit's been the best town we've been in," and the crowd, "Ah!" Well, they say that shit every night. It's a cheap pop. Okay, now Jedis can influence the world physically. I'm fine with this, but you didn't explain why that is. And Rian Johnson, it does fucking matter to us Star Wars fans. We want to know. So absolutely, I don't know that we've got a problem that Jedis can influence the physical world. In fact, now that Luke Skywalker has been randomly killed off, I guess a good thing we've got this now. Maybe we will see Luke get the fight in the next movie. But Rian Johnson doesn't understand. In Star Wars, there is some form of explanation needed for something, right? Okay, number 19. Number 19. Back to Rian Johnson. The inability for Rian Johnson to capture the essence of Star Wars. Okay, I bring this up because of one of my favorite channels. And everybody knows Ivan Ortega at this point. He's a film editor. He's re-editing The Last Jedi. And I've watched all of his re-edits so far. And one of the things that he did was he included the Luke Morning Han scene into his re-edit. But one of the other things that he has done is he has changed the music in that movie, the themes, okay? And some of his music theme placement in that movie captures Star Wars so much better than what Rian Johnson put on the big screen. And my issue with that is, and I don't know, Ivan Ortega may be a better film editor than Rian Johnson. But Rian Johnson got handed the keys to Star Wars. So if you can't sit down with your film editor and understand that you need to edit this movie better and have a better feel of where things need to go and be placed, you should not be doing anything as big as Star Wars. You need to stick to, I'm going to make a little looper, I'm going to do a couple of episodes of Breaking Bad, and we're good, right? Alright. Number 20. No real physical interaction between Leia and Luke. Some people will say, yeah, but we got it in the Force projection. Did it make any difference to Leia? Blah, they're connected by the Force. I get all that. But for us original trilogy fans, it's a big fucking deal to see our characters back together. We only got to see Han and Leia back together for a brief bit. And that didn't bother me that much. But the fact that Leia and Luke did not physically meet back up, I actually have a little bit of an issue with. It is one of my smaller gripes, but it's there because of the wait between the Return of the Jedi all the way until now. The literal physical years that we waited. Whatever it was, 38 years. Next, we are on number 21. The Praetorian Guards versus Kylo and Rey. While in theory this scene should have been cool, should have been really a great fight scene. If you really watch that fight scene, it's clunky, it's clumsy, it's random and all over the place. It lacks the heart of either time that Vader and Luke fought. It lacks the heart of Anakin versus Obi-Wan. I didn't enjoy that scene as much as I enjoyed Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in The Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace. Okay? And we're not asking for the best lightsaber fight scene of all time, but with the technology that we have now, boy, the choreography was crap in that scene. Just crap. Number 22. The potential looming romance between Rey and Kylo. Reylo. Now, I understand that there is a certain, I guess, age group of people that are rooting for this. In fact, I had a commenter the other day that said that he or she had literally been a fan since '77. And they were hoping to see Reylo. Everybody's got a right to their own opinion. You come to my channel, you're welcome. But I respectfully disagree and I shit on Reylo. I don't want to see it. I think it's a horrible idea. I think it is a product of a new school way of thinking. I think it is trying to mix in Twilight with Star Wars. I told the same person the other day, Rey cared about Han. Han took Rey under his wing. You witnessed him get murdered. And now you've got a budding romance with Kylo Ren, the guy that killed Han. Say that out loud and just tell me if it makes sense. Because it doesn't. Next. Oh, this is one that it lives now in internet lore. Our first real Force moment from General Leia is what I like to call the Harry Potter floatback move. Listen, some people call it the Mary Poppins, some call it the Superman. If you like this scene, great. It is one of the worst looking scenes on theatrical big screen history ever. It looks awful. It looks kiddie. It looks hokey. If you're going to do it, you've got to make it look more believable. Period. The effects on it are terrible. My wife was completely out of this movie at that point. She was like, literally in her seat, she went, "Oh fuck, you gotta be joking." I mean, it was people literally in the theater laughed. It was like, oh, come on. In fact, one woman actually behind me said, "Oh, come on." Number 24, and this is an odd one, but I do think it influences, and I'm glad that JJ is putting like 5 years in between these movies. I wonder how much this movie and the story was doomed for having started right after The Force Awakens ended. You didn't have any time to marinate. You did not have any time for the story or the crawl to explain some of the little hidden things that the crawl tells you about, right? And it was like, hey, they're running for their life. And it's like, really? The Resistance just knocked these fuckers on their asses. So it made the Resistance seem so small after such a huge victory that what happened what happened to the Resistance being picked off one by one, we will get to in a minute. That almost rendered The Force Awakens useless. Right? It made such a powerful moment in blowing up Starkiller Base, whether you agree with there being a Starkiller Base or not. Them having blew it up, it rendered that even that explosion and that victory for them, it almost rendered it tiny. And again, there are so many fuck yous to J.J. Abrams in this movie, it is unreal. Number 25. Why was my Star Wars movie a one big long car chase scene? A slow one at that. It was slow as fuck. It was one slow chase scene for 2 hours. Now, why you can't catch us again? Something about they're just small enough to something. So why can't you get out in front of? I don't. Terrible. That is lazy ass story writing. And I have said before, Kathleen Kennedy, political bullshit aside, Kathleen Kennedy should have read this story and script, or whatever he turned in. She should have called him, Rian Johnson, into a room, and she should have fired his ass. You can't tell me this read any better on paper. Maybe it did. Maybe they sat around the room and was like, wow. All I know is Bob Iger has said he didn't like The Last Jedi. That to me is enough for Kathleen Kennedy to get her ass fired. Now we have found out, and I don't even have this on there, but we'll touch on it in a half sec. Now we have found out that Rian Johnson plagiarized the end of the movie by stealing it from Escape from LA. There's a video out there, split screens it and everything. It is. There's even fan fiction that it's blatant that Rian Johnson took from and put into his movie and plagiarized. I'm not sure what this guy was doing. I mean, I know I'm railing on Rian Johnson, but this is on him and Kathleen Kennedy's head, right? And a lot of his decisions is why I hate so much of this movie, right? Number 26. Why in a $200 million Star Wars movie does Snoke's room look like a red warehouse? I literally sat around and was like, is a forklift about to drive by with a pallet of sugar on it? For delivery out to aisle 12? Was that not the hokiest, cheapest looking throne room you have ever seen put together in your life? It might have been fitting for a 70s porn shoot, but not a Star Wars movie. It looked awful. I mean, who were the creative minds on this movie? Number 27. Rey's mirror rubbing and finger snapping, whatever that is. I do that to my bearded collie, Gracie, so she will come to her dad. Stupid. This is where the movie felt more like Lord of the Rings and more like Harry Potter for me than it did a Star Wars movie. Also, it's moments like this and other parts of the movie, and I'll touch on this a little bit later, but I thought Daisy Ridley's acting in this movie was terrible. I thought she was great in The Force Awakens. I thought she was terrible in this movie. And I think it's a lot of what her character was handed by the director, right, and the writer. Number 28. We can now track through light speed. This is a lore-busting moment. I hate anything that takes away from Star Wars lore. I say that is why The Last Jedi is the worst Star Wars movie ever, because it shits on Star Wars lore, making it damaging. Whereas the first two prequel movies were just bad, but they did not damage the lore of Star Wars. This movie took the lore and shit with it and then wiped it with toilet paper. I hate it. I realize they explored that in Rogue One. I don't give a shit. I still hate it. In Star Wars movies, there was always a sense of there is a race for the ship because you can escape. Once we get to the ship, we can fucking escape. You've thrown that out the window. I hate it. Okay, number 29. Who looked at Kylo and thought we should remove his mask? That will make him scarier, removing his mask. I lost all ability to believe that Kylo Ren was intimidating in any way. Adam Driver looks like a whiny bitch in this movie. I want you to think about this. Flash forward, or flash back, to the very beginning of The Force Awakens, where Kylo comes onto the planet, walks off that ship, and that entire scene, him freezing the laser in midair, and then flash forward to this asshole taking his mask off. And keeping it off. That's the problem. If you want to take it off to have a little interaction, fine. But put it back on. There's a rumor that JJ is having Kylo redon a mask. God, I hope so. I mean, really, Hayden Christensen with glowing Darth Vader eyes would own this fucker. And that's saying a lot. Number 30. Why did Rian Johnson write and make this movie feel more like the ending to a trilogy when it was really the middle part of a story? I mean, let's say The Last Jedi was the last movie in the trilogy. It would still be a poorly put together film. And the escape scene, the slow chase scene, all these points would still be valid, except Luke passes away peacefully at the end. Okay, Luke was probably going to pass. Princess Leia lives on to fight another day. I mean, you could have made a couple of small modifications in this movie, and it would have been a much better movie had it been the ending of a trilogy. But Rian Johnson wrote, it was the middle part of a 3-part movie, and he tied up storylines that should have been tied up in the third movie. From the third act of the third movie. Snoke's death, Rey's lineage being addressed. I mean, it was just unbelievable. It's like the guy didn't know which part of he thought he was writing the whole trilogy in one film. Where's Poe's Black Squadron? Number 31. Well, point of fact, Poe's Black Squadron is addressed in the Poe Dameron comic that they've got going on right now. And by the way, the comics are part of canon. But they can't expect the average film goer. Hell, I have a Star Wars channel on YouTube. And I don't read these fucking comics, okay? I don't have time for it. Would I like to read some of them? Yeah, it'd probably be the Darth Vader comic, which I hear is epic. But his squadron is off on a mission. We don't know that. We're left to wonder, well, where are all his badass pilots that just help him blow the Star Killer base up? No, they got sent off on a mission. That's it. That was 31 reasons why I have a problem with The Last Jedi.